Tonight, Republicans in a tizzy over Hillary Clinton's emails while she was in the State Department. No news there, but if you believe the polls, that controversy not making a dent in her popularity. Then, no love between the governor and the mayor. Why Bill de Blasio is giving Governor Andrew Cuomo's education plan a big fat F. Also, a big new push to stop treating 16 and 17-year-olds like adults when they're prosecuted in New York State. New York, one of only 2 states that can send kids to jails, even maximum security facilities, when they're 16 years of age. You're going to hear an amazing guest here who's going to tell you his personal story. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to RFL. I'm Richard French. And tonight we do start with Hillary Clinton, who's expected to formally announce her presidential campaign next month. And it looks like that email controversy, surprisingly, not really hurting her in the polls. Take a look at these latest numbers from CNN. They show that Hillary is crushing any potential Democratic challengers. Vice President Joe Biden is closest, and he's nearly 50 points behind if it came to a Democratic primary. And Hillary, double-digit leads against all the top Republicans who could run for the White House. I want to bring in our panel here, my 2 buddies, Dominic Carter, political journalist and author, and Andrew Whitman, senior political correspondent. Andrew, I'll start with you. I thought, whatever it's worth, that you never want to be too far ahead too early in this process. Obviously, she's a known commodity. But that all said, I thought this email controversy would just feed all the old suspicions. They want to make their own rules. They play by their own set. It didn't seem to really hurt. I'm surprised.
Two thoughts that jump out at me in all of this. One is that she is so well known by so many of the voters. 90+%, 95% in some polls already know who she is and have their opinion made up about her. So if you liked Hillary before the email problem happened, you're still going to like Hillary. And if you didn't like Hillary, this didn't do anything to change your mind. The other reason why I don't think it's hurt her in the poll numbers is that heads up against the other Democratic challengers. If you look at the people that she's polling against, Biden and Elizabeth Warren, who's not running, and some other names that are on that list, there's nobody else in the Democratic bench. Democrats may not like what Hillary Clinton has done. They may have questions about her viability or whether there's going to be problems for her down the road, but they have nobody else to go to right now. So even if they're appalled by what the email situation was, they're still going to hold their nose and vote for her and pray that she doesn't get knocked out or somehow beaten up.
We're going to have to ask Andrew's fiancée right now to turn the channel, because we usually have to throw cold water if I mention Elizabeth Warren to Andrew. But there is rumors here that there's a further push to try and get her back in. Even if she did get in, you really think there's a credible fight, or that it really would marginalize Hillary in a primary process?
No, which is why I don't think she's running at all. I think if Hillary Clinton leaves the scene and announces for some reason that she's not running for president, then you'll see the effort to draft Warren really step up in earnest, and she would have a decent shot at the nomination at that point. Elizabeth Warren would. But with Hillary there is simply no path for any Democrat, regardless of how popular. Even if Bill Clinton could somehow get around the 2-term limit ban and decide, I'm running against Hillary, I don't think he would beat Hillary.
You think there's an inevitability, not just in the primary process, but an inevitability to Hillary? I mean, the argument I've heard some say is there's nothing more that can come out. Everybody knows all the Clinton baggage by now. Is there anything that you could see, given that she's got 8 years ago, she went through a bruising campaign, she learned lessons. The one thing you never say about the Clintons is, or at least Hillary, she never makes the same mistake twice, right? Is there any chink in the armor you see with her? I mean, it is early to be this far ahead. It's always a problem to be too much of a presumptive favorite, right?
It is early. The gap is going to close in the primary and the general election. I think there are a number of things at play here, Richard. One, 3 things. The email controversy, the public saw through it as much ado about nothing. That's number one at this stage.
Yep.
Now, the facts could change down the road, and thus my perspective could change. Number 2, Democrats, and I really believe a majority of the country, are looking to make history again. Think about this for a second. Democrats and the country was able to elect the first black president. I really believe the country wants to give it a shot with the first woman president.
It's funny, though. We don't hear that as much.
Oh, but you're starting to hear it a lot more from her people. You're starting to hear it from the pundits, and the Clintons are starting to play up the gender issue. But number 3, I think Andrew mentioned her husband. Okay, there's Monica Lewinsky, but if you look back to the Clinton times, whether it was real or not, it was a good time for the country. And I believe that folks are betting on Hillary Clinton to deliver for America.
Well, that's a perfect segue, Andrew, because a group called Bill for First Lady 2016, they just released this video, and it features a bobblehead Bill, Bill Clinton, that is, lobbying to be First Lady.
They always said Hillary wore the pants. Now I'm wearing the dress. Bill for First Lady 2016.com. Put Hillary in the White House. I am homesick.
All right.
I can't tell if that's a pro-Hillary ad or an anti-Hillary ad.
Me either. Do you think net that he brings more baggage as it comes to the electorate? I'm talking about a general electorate here who's on the fence, or that they say, you know what, whatever you think of the guy, there's competency, he brings 8 years of experience here, and he's more of an asset than a liability. Which way you think that undetermined, that person right in the middle that doesn't vote by party line either way?
I think he's 98% an asset to Hillary Clinton. Most of the time, most of the ways, he's the best, most impassioned speaker in the Democratic Party. When he gets, when it gets into a fervor, he can light up a room like nobody else, including President Obama, in the Democratic Party. He's a huge asset for Hillary. The problem is, and I was trying to think of a reference point, but the thought that came to mind was Dave Kingman, who would always swing and miss as a baseball player, but man, when he hit the ball, it would go forever. When Bill Clinton hits a gaffe or stumbles on something, it's a whopper. And we saw that in the 2008 campaign, helped Barack Obama get elected president. We saw it certainly during his time in the Oval Office. So as long as he can stay away from
help Barack
that
Obama
big
get
moment,
elected president twice.
Right,
yeah.
As long as he can stay away from that big moment, though, he's an enormous asset. But those big moments aren't just big. They're game changers.
What kind of a role you think the public would want if there was a Clinton White House for Bill Clinton?
Well, it depends on if you're talking about the campaign, in which I don't think he's going to change much. I think that he's a net gain, no doubt about it. And if you don't believe
you do remember what happened.
I remember South Carolina. I remember how Obama baited him and got him to flush out. And, I remember the comments about, years ago, this guy would be getting out coffee. And then Obama turned around and said, which one am I running against? Which Clinton? I remember it well. But I really believe, with all of that said, that he is a net gain. And if you don't think he is, Richard, ask Obama. Remember when Obama was on the ropes, he turned to.
I was in Charlotte.
You were there at the convention hall.
The irony is that Bill Clinton, he could qualify for any cabinet position that he actually wanted. I don't think he would want one, but he would be well suited to be any of those positions.
But do you think, Andrew, that the idea that he would be so close would do two things: inadvertently marginalize Hillary Clinton as to the question, well, who's making really these decisions? And then secondarily, that you don't want somebody going rogue where they're making, remember, to a much lesser degree, but remember in John Kerry's campaign and Hines and about the worries that his wife was going to be meddling in policy and everything else. Now, granted, he was in the Oval Office for 8 years as commander-in-chief, but that said, you think that gives pause?
I don't think anybody would think that Bill Clinton was meddling. I think if his role was something of a consigliere, somebody that Hillary could turn to, I think it only strengthens her. It's funny because Jeb Bush is running away from his brother and his father's not really involved. Hillary, I think, can do the opposite and can actually look at Bill as being a strength. The only position that would be bad is if it was like ambassador to China or ambassador to Great Britain. Like then all the scandal stuff would start over.
I talked about the Oval Office and Bill Clinton, and obviously Monica Lewinsky jumps to mind. Whether it's right or wrong, it's part of his legacy as much as he'd like to erase it. Now, she's back, and she just gave a TED Talk where she recounted her affair with Bill Clinton and how she's been cyberbullied afterwards. Now, while her reemergence is here, the question is both a question as to timing, right? It's interesting when she's reemerging, but I don't think anyone's going to say, to be fair to her, that she sought out the limelight repeatedly after the scandal hit. She kind of went underground on this.
Agreed.
She was ripped to shreds.
She left the country.
She asked for some of it. She was still a kid, but at the end of the day, she really has lied low on this. It's a little surprising that she's coming out literally probably when the next 30 days when Hillary announces her candidacy, and Hillary can't say anything about her. So do you think this is just old news, or do you think that this is going to come up again in this campaign?
Well, it's certainly going to come up again and again and again.
How?
Well, remember, and I remember when I asked Hillary about this, and she became infuriated at me because you know that she wrote in her book, she mentioned Monica Lewinsky. So Mrs. Clinton made Monica an issue herself to sell books. So that makes Monica relevant because you know that book is going to come back up.
But you know what I
during
mean?
the campaign.
Everybody knows the story by now. Hillary got
Right.
more sympathy, was more humanized, I thought, after this, right? Where some people thought she was an ice maiden, that she was unrelatable and everything else. People could see the pain she was going through, certainly with her daughter and everything else. Is this still something that is going to either have to be acknowledged, addressed, or it even matters?
If Miss Lewinsky handles it the way that she's doing it now, taking on the issue of cyberbullying and basically staying away from politics, then it won't have an impact on the Clintons. But you well know that every time she gives a speech, Monica Lewinsky, every network is going to be there monitoring what she has to say.
But unless she's got dirt to throw, I don't really see how that impacts Hillary. I mean, unless she starts talking about the incident, the affair, whatever you want to call it, any other claims that we haven't heard from her about, being bullied around by the White House, which we haven't heard from her, that I think becomes a story, and that's something that would have to be addressed again. But if she keeps doing what she's doing now, I don't see it being a big impact for Hillary or Bill.
All right. When we come up on the other side of the break, we're going to come closer to home and talk about the clash in the classroom, how Bill de Blasio and Andrew Cuomo battling it out when it comes to the future of education in New York. And then we'll share my emotional interview with a man who knows the criminal justice firsthand and is only 23. He says we need big changes to the way that young people are treated.
What is this that I'm in? I'm considered a ward of the state. What is that? And I caught on quick, and I told myself, and if I apologize for getting into this, because this is my life.